The following program is brought to you in living color.
How's it going, guys? It's been a while since I put a video up, so I figured I would go ahead and do one. I've been wanting to do this episode for months now. I've just been slammed busy with all kinds of other things going on. I played in a Leonard Skinner tribute band, and so I figured I would do this episode on the Mobile Civic Center, since a lot of these stories that I do, I have some sort of connection to. But I think most all of you out there probably have some connection to this as well, especially if you've been here for any length of time. I probably, if nothing else, you've been to some Mardi Gras Balls there. But, I've been going to this thing since the 60s. Of course, I didn't go willingly. Some of these things, this is just things I got drug into by my parents for Guy Lombardo, that sort of thing. First concert I got to see that I wanted to go see was Three Dog Night, and that was in '71. Of course, I got a shirt of them. It's not the original, of course, it wouldn't fit me. So, Mobile Civic Center was used most for Mardi Gras. It really had the perfect layout. It had all these rooms that went all the way around, and each float could have their room. And they would, of course, serve all kinds of good food in there as well. And I remember going to these, from the 70s all the way through 80s, 90s, and mid-2000s. But, back in the 70s, it really wasn't that crowded. You could get around that thing pretty easy. And even in the 80s and some 90s, and it seemed to have gotten more and more packed as the years went on. Now, before there was the Civic Center, most of these Mardi Gras organizations had their functions at the Fort Whiting Armory, and there may have been some other places as well that they had these. And so that's what I think most people probably remember this thing by, is about all the Mardi Gras balls that were held there. Now, the Mobile Municipal Auditorium, it opened on July the 9th of 1964, and I have the phone book where it graced the cover of that, and they broke ground on it in 1962. So they got through with this thing relatively quick. And it was built with the city's longtime, Mardi Gras celebrations in mind, which is a good thing. The concourse there was often used for balls during the Mardi Gras season, and the building's entertainment profile increased significantly during the 70s. And it had dozens of popular acts, including Elvis. And he even stayed at the Ramada Inn on the Causeway. And so they even had the Elvis room there. I think he also ate at the Bluegill on the Causeway, and I think they still have the Elvis table there. So we've had the King.
They came as early as 1 o'clock yesterday afternoon. By midnight last night, as many as 150 people were setting up camp outside the auditorium doors. This morning, that number had increased tenfold. Old Swivel Hips can still draw a crowd. At 8:30, police carefully unlocked the doors, and the rush was on. Tickets and money exchanged hands in a maddening flurry. Tommy Milham of Fairhope was the first in line. He came to the auditorium at 1 o'clock yesterday afternoon and spent the night on a Chase lounge. What possesses a grown man to act with such wild abandon?
A wife, a 9-year-old daughter, and a 13-year-old daughter.
Are you a Presley fan?
Yes, I am.
Milham's perseverance paid off. He came away with 12 front row tickets, but others weren't so lucky.
I was one of the first 20 people in there, and I'm stuck way back in the back. And I don't see how they can sell out that many tickets that fast.
Alice Ray came from Biloxi last night at 10 o'clock. She and many others were upset because there was no limit on the number of tickets a person could buy. Elvis Presley is 41 years old. He's been in this business over 20 years. Judging from this crowd here today, he could be in it another 20 years. At Municipal Auditorium, Wayne Barnett, Channel 10 Newsbeat.
He also did 2 shows, sold out the first time, and he felt bad for the ones who couldn't attend the first one, so he stuck around and did 2 shows here.
At the Mobile Municipal Auditorium, the lines were shorter. At the beginning, they only stretched a block, instead of almost ringing the auditorium as yesterday. The lines moved along. Groups were allowed inside to get their tickets as the others waited. The second Elvis show is set for Sunday evening, the 29th, and was scheduled only after all the tickets were sold for the matinee scheduled the same day. About an hour after the ticket sales began, the lines had disappeared, and the sales continued at a more normal pace. Mike Hobbs for Channel 10 Newsbeat.
I remember going and seeing Led Zeppelin there in '73, and me begging my mother to buy me a 360 rig, which is what he played through. They cost as much as a car back then, so that never happened. But I was able to finally get me a pair of twins of these. And incidentally, I know I'm getting a little bit off track here, but they auctioned off his twin 360 rigs about 5-6 years ago for around $28,000. And I was shocked. I would have thought those things were bought much more than that. But anyway, that's just a side history note of Zeppelin. It didn't earn any revenue, however, but it's stopped regularly booking big name acts around the mid-'80s. The last big acts I saw there in the mid-'80s, I think the very last one was Jimmy Buffett, and that was probably around 84. And I did go see Styx and Rush there around 80, 81. And so, anyway, there were some irregularities in the Civic Center's finances. I'm not going to get into all of that, but it was, losing around $400,000 a year, and which grew to even more as the years went on. And basically what happened is because of the mismanagement of the money there, all the entertainment industries were no longer booking acts there. They just simply quit doing it. And so if you wanted to go see a big name act, you had to go to Pensacola or Biloxi. And so I think what should have been done at that time, especially around the mid-'80s, they should have sold it then. In addition to the arena, it also had an expo hall and also a theater. Now the theater was 1,940 seats, so it's pretty big. I don't recall ever going anything in it, but they did have some theatrical events going and maybe in a few concerts there on the smaller side. And it was known for its acoustics and unobstructed views. And it also contained a 90 by 60 foot stage. Now, the other component of it was the Expo Hall, and it was 28,000 square feet, which is pretty darn big. And it was used for conventions and trade shows, that sort of thing. And it could seat around 2,200, up to around 3,000 for concerts. So I think of the three components that were there, the Expo Hall probably got the most use. Now, the big arena itself was 80,000 square feet. That thing's massive. And it could hold 10,112 people. And there were 6,120 permanent seats in the arena. That didn't count the seating they would put down at the floor. But anyway, this thing could hold a ton of people. And what I find ironic is that the new one they're building is only going to hold 100 more than what this old one did. Anyway, I'm going to hate to see this thing go. I wish they would have done something with this in the 80s and maybe sold it to the House of Blues or Hard Rock or whatever. I think if it was sold at that time, we would have had a lot of good concerts come through here in the 80s and 90s and all the way up to now, since it would have been out of the management of the city of Mobile. But that's just what it is. And so y'all reflect back on the things that you went to here and put them down in the comments below, because we all like to read them, and it actually jars back memories to a lot of us as well. And I want to thank every one of you for being part of the Southern Stories channel. You really are become a part of the family when you subscribe to this, because it's all of us, putting our heads together through comments on the threads. And if you like the History of Spanish Fort, there's a page there on Facebook, History of Spanish Fort, Alabama. And if you really love the cool music of the 60s and 70s and also local acts, I created another channel called Tribute, the Tribute Band. And there's some really cool bands on that site. And we also have the band I'm currently in now, the Leonard Skinner Tribute Band, Almost Skynnerd. We spell that Skynard. And we're on Facebook, of course, and have a website. And there's some videos of us, too, on YouTube if you want to check those out. But there again, I just want to thank you guys for being part of this. I really do appreciate y'all more than you'll ever know. And y'all take care, and I'll see you on the next one. This channel is a mix of both local history and issues that affect our homes as they apply to the area that we live in, which is kind of brutal due to the climate. Take care, guys.